Welcome back. This is Aquarium Hacks by Marcus. And today I'm going to just be talking about, which is not enough information on this really on the internet, or at least not on YouTube that I could find. But it's a medication I do not recommend, especially if you have invertebrates or if you're a saltwater keeper, if you got corals or something like that. I would not recommend this medication, and I hate that I ever even used it. It was my rookie mistake, but I think my mistake is for your warning, especially if you have snails. And the medication I'm going to be talking about is Flubendazole. This medication, this is a very long word here. I'll put the in the description. I will put this medication in the description. But for simplicity, we're going to call it just Fluben. And then there's another medication that I would probably recommend by Fritz, and it's called Lavam-i-sole. Lavam-i-sole. So for simplicity, we're going to call it Lavam, okay? For simplicity. But Flubendazole or Flubendazole is is a medication that is a dewormer, okay? People usually use it when their fish have internal worms, internal parasites. If they have flukes, this medication will take care of all that stuff. Very good medication, very powerful medication for that. You can feed it in your food, which I recommend that you soak it in garlic and get a good tasting food, so the fish will consume it. Or you can put it in your water, or you can do both. My recommendations for this horrible medication, in my opinion, is that you just feed it in food, and you continue to run chemical filtration like carbon and purgen. Get you some fresh bags if you go feed it in food, and make sure that if you got the UV sterilizer, feed it in food. Run your UV sterilizer too, because you don't really want this stuff getting too much into your aquarium, because it will kill your snails. Okay, I made a rookie mistake, and I put this stuff in my aquarium. Now, I had done a little research on it. I knew it said it would kill snails, but from my years of experience of keeping snails and medication, I've always used different medications. Say they hurt snails, blah blah blah, and it never really hurt my snails. My Nerite snails did fine. My MTS snail did just fine with medication. I simply removed it later on after the treatment, and with the water change, sometimes just with the water change, and it was weak enough with the water change, it didn't have no effect, or would do a water change and then add carbon or purgen, and I was done with it, and everything was a-okay. But this medication is different, and it is, if you have snails, if you want to keep your snails, do not use this. I made a rookie mistake and treated my tank with this stuff. Now, and the only reason I did it because I ordered some Ciprochromis from not a YouTuber, but somebody from eBay, which was a horrible person. I'm not going to throw his name out there, but I will say this much. The name of the company starts with a W, and the end of it starts with a T. So put two to two together, and do not order, at least in my opinion, do not order from a company that send you fish that has internal parasites or internal worms. Even after I quarantined those fish for 2 weeks, 3 weeks, I think almost three weeks of quarantine. Still, they came in my tank after 3 weeks, fourth week, usually what I go for. They came in my tank and they had internal worms, internal parasites. And it was just killing off the Ciprochromis that I had just one by one, Every other week or every 2 weeks, Ciprochromis get skinny. I had to net them out. It was horrible. Killing out my Ciprochromis. Didn't affect my other fish at all, but just the Ciprochromis. And so it killed them all off, sadly, except for 3 of them. Then the last Ciprochromis, after I treated him with this Fluben, his crazy stuff, jumped out the tank one day when I had the lid open, and I didn't notice it, and he hit his head on the concrete, and he died. But anyway, let me get into the story, okay? I had bought some more Ciprochromis, some tricolor. Now, the only reason why I bought these Ciprochromis is because I really don't, buy expensive fish like that too much. It was because Live Fish Direct had free shipping, and these fish, because I bought 9 of them, were only $17 a fish. So that's really cheap and a really good deal coming from Live Fish Direct. And every last one of them came to me healthy. Big ups to Live Fish Direct. But before I put those cyprochromas in my main tank, I wanted to make darn sure that these cyprochromas were not carrying any internal worms or internal parasites that could be passed on to my new cyprochromas that I just spent money for. Okay, I don't like throwing money away. So anyway, I went and I treated the tank with Flubendazole. And like I said before, I've treated tanks before with medications that said that, it could harm your snails and vertebrates. It never did. Never did have any problems with it. Like I said, carbon, whatever, and my stuff was just fine. This stuff, Fluben, is a snail killer. Be warned about dewormers. This one is a snail killer. See that? Snail killer. Killed out all my nerite snails, which they barely wanted to come out the shells. I believe it does something neurologically to them. And it almost wiped out all my MTS snails. Now, if you don't want snails, use this stuff. But if you want to keep your snails, run away from this stuff as far as you possibly can. Any medication that has it in there, run from it. Okay. So, because it killed out all my snails, that was horrible. Then, of course, because I had so many snails, it caused an ammonia spike in my aquarium. Now I'm working on an ammonia spike, trying to get the aquarium back together. Okay, so I did my water change. I threw my carbon in, threw my purigen in, did some pretty good water changes. I decided to test out some more nerite snails because algae was starting to grow on my tank, brown algae and stuff, So I decided to test out some more nerite snails. And about 3 or 4 days later, they started to die. I'm like, what in the world? What kind of stuff is this? So I did some more intensive research online and finding out that this stuff is especially deadly to nerite snails. Now, I've heard some people have, did water changes, the carbon, the purigen for 3 months. And at the end of 3 months, they put the nerite snails in, and they still died about a week or two later. That's horrible. I mean, what kind of medication is this? But anyway, I've come to find out that as I was cleaning out some of my filters, because I had to do it, right? Trying to get out dead bodies of MTS snails out of my filters and all that kind of stuff. I've come to find out that it did not wipe out all my MTS snails. Some had actually survived in the filters. I had a bladder snail. I don't know where he come from, but he had actually survived. And I heard that Flubendazole does not kill or does not have that much effect on bladder or roundhorn snails. So if you got those in your tank, you want to keep them, you're still, in my opinion, taking a risk with such a medication as this. They could possibly survive the apocalypse of, shall I say, but they could possibly survive this medical treatment here with Fluben. But that's at your own risk, let me tell you, because it is a snail killer. So what I'm doing now, the process that I'm going through now is, of course, I'm gravel vacuuming. I'm gravel back to all that, whatever is in there. I'm gravel vacuuming, putting purigen in, putting polyfilter in, putting fresh carbon in. And eventually it will break down and it will eventually get out of your tank. It can't stay in there for forever. And when you put fresh water in, that dilutes it and makes it weaker anyway. But it's still too powerful for nerite snails. Now, I bought some spiked trumpet snails, threw them in there after the water change and the carbon. They're doing just fine. The MTS snails, I'm throwing them back in there and they're doing just fine. Like I told you, the bladder snails doing just fine. The roundhorn snails, I threw some of them in there and they are doing just fine. So they're doing good, but I'm afraid now to even throw nerite snails in there because I believe that it'll kill them. I'm going to have to try it eventually, right? I'm going to try at least throw 1 or 2 in there and see what happens, But I'm just wondering what kind of medication could possibly stay in your gravel, in your substrate for that long. It makes no sense. I mean, does it soak into the wood or the rocks and then releases itself slowly? That makes no sense because once you do your water changes, that dilutes that medication and makes it far weaker than what it ever has been. And carbon will suck it up. Purigen will suck it up. Polyfilter will suck that medication up when it runs through the filter. So all that stuff's going to make that medication a lot weaker. But what are the horror stories? After 6 months, they put nearite snails in, at least according to the internet, and they've done these water changes. Perhaps they didn't do gravel vacuuming, I don't know. But they've done these water changes, and it still kills the nearite snails. But yet their pest snails, which are considered pest snails, continue to live in the tank. And so, I don't understand what kind of medication this is, but whatever kind of medication this is, if you want to use it at your own risk. I will suggest this way, like I said at the beginning, how to use this. If you absolutely have to use this, remove all your nearite snails, okay? Or all your snails that you want to remove. Try to get those guys out of there. I would suggest, even if you could, remove your fish into a different tank. But if you can't do that, try to remove your snails at least. Put it in feed, in your fish food, garlic fish food, okay? Feed it to them. Run chemical filtration like carbon and purigen. Make sure you run that fresh in there while you're feeding them for the duration. If you got a UV sterilizer, run that on there, okay? And so that medication, even though it's been fed in the food, it won't have that great of an effect on the snails and things of that nature. Then when you're done feeding, do your water changing. And when you change out your water, run your carbon, and I believe you can safely put your nearite snails and your other snails back in your tank with very little effect in that case. But yeah, Flubendazole is definitely a dangerous medication for snails. A better option, I think, and if you put it in your food, would be Lavam-i-sole. And you find this medication in Fritz expel P. This is a better medication. It's invert safe and it's fish safe. And this is a better medication to use for if you got inverts, snails or shrimp in your tank. Put it in the food, and I don't think you'll have no problem out of this. I wish I would have used this instead of this. This will not harm your fish. I will want to put that out there. This does not harm your fish. And it does do a good job. But it will, I repeat, it will kill your snails. So you have been forewarned on that. So anyway, I want to discuss that and get that information out there to you fish keepers so that you can know this kind of stuff ahead of time. And there's another one that's not Flubendazole, but it's Flubendazole, I believe. It's F-E-N. Don't use that one either. It's just as bad as this. They use that to deworm dogs and stuff like that. I won't use that either. Use it at your own risk. Well, on my next video, though, we're going to be talking about some products. I bought a brand new light, and I bought a brand new UV sterilizer, and I bought some brand new heaters. And you're going to see these new heaters, this new light, this new UV sterilizer, and why I bought them, and why I chose them over other options out there. But until then, hey, fish friends, keep happy, keep safe, and keep your fish safe as well. Hopefully this was some good information for you. And hey, keep on hacking.